And I believe we have a quorum. I'm going to make one amendment to our current agenda. That's to switch items 11 and 12, the WMATA discussion with the 4250 Connecticut redevelopment project update. We're just going to cover those in a reverse order. Are there any other changes to the agenda that people have?
Items 11 and 12?
Yes. Any other changes? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Siddick. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is 5-0. Do we have anybody from MPD? All right. Okay. Is she still planning on coming? Is she still planning on coming? Okay. She's running late. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll move ahead, and when she gets here, just sit and let me know, and then we'll just put you in the agenda at that point. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to come back to that. So we have a special announcement. Recently, we had a vacancy in ANC 3F04. At the time of that vacancy, it was too late in the election cycle to hold a special election. ANC commissioners in this ANC across the city will be picking up petition packets soon to get their names on the November ballot. Because of that, the Office of the ANC and the Board of Elections are not able to hold a special election to fill that seat. In the interest of the community, what the ANC has learned it has the powers to do is to appoint someone. This person would be a non-voting member of our commission. They would be able to interact with the public. They would be able to offer motions. They just wouldn't be able to vote on anything we have up there. They'd essentially be a shadow ANC commissioner. That's what we're planning to do, and we plan to make that appointment at our meeting in July. If you or you know someone who lives in ANC 3F04 and are interested in sort of taking care of this seat, please let us know. Just send us a quick note, a bit of a resume to info@anc3f.com with the subject line ANC 3F04 within it. We'll be discussing with potential applicants and anyone who's interested about ways to serve the community. And we'll also be making a formal announcement electronically, and we can send something for the press too that they can push out to as well. So with that, I'm going to go with our commissioner updates and announcements, and we'll start with you, Commissioner Siddick.
The only thing I have to say is one of the vacant restaurants in our area, the old Banana Leaf up in the 5000 block of Connecticut Avenue. There are two vacant restaurants there, the old Terrasol and Banana Leaf. The Banana Leaf there are some managers who are taking over the lease there, and all I can say about them is it's going to be a family-friendly Italian restaurant, and the family that's running it lives in our district and has children at Murch School. The expected opening date is September the 15th. No word yet on the Terrasol property. I've spoken to the owner of the building, and he said he had a few things in the works, but nothing has gelled yet. That's it.
Okay. I have two announcements. The first is this Saturday, Van Ness Main Street will be holding its annual fundraiser at 7 o'clock at the Park Van Ness. Van Ness Main Street has done an excellent job, and I'm sure Teresa will give us an update in a little bit, but just of sort of revitalizing our corridor. I think we've all seen over the years that it's been in existence, the increase in programming and businesses opening up, and they've gotten some great results, but those great results need our support. That's where we all come in. So please check that out. It's 7 o'clock. I believe it's on the website, and you can purchase tickets online. The other thing of note is that WMATA will be holding a town hall tomorrow, here at UDC to discuss the L1, L2 changes. Thank you. It's going to be held at the Law Library from 6 to 8 p.m. We hope someone will be here to talk a little bit about those changes. So we're expecting someone. But for an even greater in-depth discussion of those issues, will be tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So don't miss that as well. the bus lines that go up and down Connecticut for the vast majority of their routes. So.
No announcements? I don't have any announcements.
Okay, great. So moving on, I'm going to open this up to the community. I'm sorry, we're going to go to committee reports. Do we have anything for Parks and Trails?
No.
Okay. Bob?
Use that one.
Yeah.
So I'm the chair of the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. Don't have too much to report except that we're still having a little trouble with our 311 requests and getting DDOT to act on them. We do have about 275 requests pending, and about a quarter of them have been acted on. 1/4, that's not too bad. And if you notice, actually, quite a few sidewalks have been repaired lately. We're not really sure if it is a result of our requests or just because they were going to do it anyway. But we're continuing to try to get some DDOT input on this. If any of you from the commission have suggestions on that, let us know. And we'll be meeting again in July. Yes?
Yes, Van Ness Street residents are very concerned about the deterioration of the sidewalk along UDC.
Yes, I know.
We're asking for not just please don't just fill in some holes, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But just redo the whole thing with something that's durable and cheap to maintain. And I
Right.
assume that if Eagles going in on the
I'm sorry.
field, that's the request.
Yes.
I don't know much about that.
Have all those big trucks and trailers driving over and you.
What part of Van Ness?
What are
I'm
we
sorry.
talking about?
We have, right in front of the.
Running through the building, basically from Connecticut
From Connecticut.
Oh,
Connecticut
right.
to Reno.
to Reno. Okay.
And that's the major route
Right.
for
Mhm.
walking to the metro.
Okay.
And this has been repeated
Is it one of those brick-
before. We thought you were aware of this because David Dickinson is.
Yeah, he is certainly aware, and I think we do have. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've.
Is that a
tripped there.
brick sidewalk?
It's a brick sidewalk that has not been
No.
properly maintained.
Yeah,
And was never properly laid.
yeah, yeah.
So we would be happy to take that up at the next Community Campus Task Force meeting. I'm not sure exactly what the date is, but we have them quarterly, and this is a helpful issue to flag.
We're getting notices on them. I haven't gotten any notices. We're not getting, and those are required under the UBC order.
Well, I know they're published in a variety of listservs in the area, but I can look into it and make sure that we're.
They're actually required to be given notice every time they happen.
Yes.
And that's ridiculous. We're not doing it.
So we'll get some additional information on what media they're using for that right now, but I think that would be a really good issue for us to discuss at our next meeting. I know it's come up before.
What extent do you have jurisdiction from the ANC and how do those two overlap?
We work collaboratively on issues, but it's an opportunity for us to go in depth on UDC-specific issues, so I'd be happy to bring that up
We
to.
don't see that as a UDC issue. We really see it as a neighborhood issue because so many people from our neighborhood walk down that to get to Metro.
But we've also been told that it's the DDOT,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
problem, issue, authority, whatever. So all of these various intersecting interests do need to come together and focus and get something done, because this has now been going on for over a year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we'll leverage every avenue we have to find a solution. Thank you for bringing it up.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm sorry, Bob. Bob, real quick before you stop. We're having a meeting in July.
Yes.
Do we have a date?
You said
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday here at UDC. Okay. Thank you. Grants.
the one issue for the grant is the special project. Yeah, so the microphones are not amplifying it in the room. The microphones are only amplifying it for the people on our last live stream, right?
We're not on live stream. It's for
We're
recording.
not on
I
live stream
believe.
anymore?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, so it's for the recording, it's not for the room.
Speak up then, maybe.
So I'm sorry. Your announcement about the grants committee.
The only grants issue is the special project that we'll take up later in the agenda.
Okay.
Other than that, there's nothing else from grants.
Great. And that is item 13 on our agenda for tonight. So we're going to move on to the community open forum. Before we do so, I want to point out to everyone we have a rather lengthy agenda tonight. I'm going to keep to it as much as possible, and I would appreciate if everyone also could just keep their their questions as much as of a question as possible, and their comments as short as possible, and then we can all move forward. So, but with that, I'm going to just open it up for people to come down and make announcements. Remember, we do not have amplification devices, so please speak loudly so that the room can hear you. Okay? And we have 20 minutes for that. And community announcements. Juanita.
Juanita Gray, University of the District of Columbia. So to address the question about the Community Campus Task Force, we do actually have one scheduled for next Thursday, June 28th, from 6:30 or beginning at 6:30 p.m. here in 44A03. We do encourage the entire community to come out. Who we send
What
the
time? I'm sorry. I missed
6:30.
that. Thank you.
No, I'm sorry, I'll email you.
And where is that?
Here in 44A03.
Thank you.
6:30 to 8?
6:30 until it's over. And what we do as a for the campus, we email out, and I'll be emailing out tomorrow. Thomas has been out. We email out to the community or members who are on the task force, and then they get the information out to the constituents, and then we also have it on the website.
My name is supposed to be on that list, and I talked to Thomas Redmond about it repeatedly, and as far as I can tell, he's been
I'll get your email address tonight, and I'll make sure I send it to you directly. In addition to merch, they have been moving out. They started last week. They'll continue for the next couple of weeks. We don't have any clear decisions on whether or not Eaton is going into that space. So once the university gets information, we will make sure that the commission knows.
Do you have a timeline on when they might let you know? Okay,
No,
fair enough.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're gonna. If they come, it'll be before the school year, so it'll be a very quick turnaround.
Okay.
We are asking, and Troy, our Chief Operating Officer, has spoken to Commissioner Dickinson about this. A lot of neighborhood residents are parking, well, a lot of people in general are parking on the entrance to the main campus on VZ. That area is not a parking area. It's also not a drop-off area for the Metro. The Metro has a kiss and ride area that's right in back of 4250. So we're asking the commission.
They don't actually have that.
Is it gone? Or it's gone?
Well, we're going to talk about that in a little more detail and,
Okay.
and figure out how we can make the most of that space.
Well, for the safety of our students and for the people walking on VZ and for congestion purposes, we're asking the commission to reach out to constituents about not parking and or going in that area unless they're dropping off and then turning. We might have to figure out something if,
Yeah,
if
that might be something we discuss with the MPD when they arrive.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
that's all I have.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. It's Teresa with Van Ness Main Street. And a few updates. We have a pop-up in our building, which is at 4340 Connecticut Avenue. We work with the University of the District of Columbia as a partner in a pop-up. And our pop-up is Abana Clothing Boutique. And she's been in the neighborhood in the area of Upper Northwest for a while. And so she is in our space operating a pop-up. She's there Fridays and Saturdays. I have 10% off coupons for you. She's a great local business, woman-owned, and we're really excited to have her there. And we want to thank the University of the District of Columbia for allowing us to do the pop-up. And this is part of our ongoing efforts to increase retail in Van Ness. And with that, we're working with Roadside Development, who has a space next to the Gold's Gym that is vacant at the moment, and they're working on leasing it. But they have offered to allow us to hopefully develop a pop-up there, so more information at the next meeting on that. Gold's Gym is up for sale, and they, I don't know any more about what they're looking for, but it's exciting that we know that that space is up for sale. We continue to work on our fundraiser, and I have cards for you. Every dollar raised goes to Van Ness Main Street. Calvert Woodley is our partner on this, and they're donating all the wine, all the cheese. Bread First is doing bread for us, and several of our local businesses are donating items for our auction basket. And Abana Clothing is giving us a dress to auction off. So I hope you come. We have great music provided by musicians from the University of the District of Columbia. It's Saturday at the Park Van Ness from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And like I said, it's a total fundraiser for us. My board chair, Marlene Berlin, is here, and we're just really excited about it, and I think it's going to be a really fun event, so I hope you can come. We're working on a public space permit, temporary, for the plaza at 4250 Connecticut Avenue. As you know, last year we did an event around Van Ness Social Club, and we're going to continue that. We want to have outdoor seating there so people can sit, get their food from the food truck, and activate that plaza. So hopefully we'll get that approved soon. We're working on some of the issues around the sidewalks, and we've decided that we're actually highlighting them with washable chalk paint. We have a lot of issues in front of Building 52, which is where the law school is, but I recommend that where you all are on Van Ness and you're talking, I can get you the can of paint and I can help you highlight that.
Happy to.
Because it's really important, and we're really trying to highlight that. We've been working with the Ian, who's with the Mooker's office at the mayor, and he's helping us out with that. Again, our farmers market continues throughout the entire summer. I hope all of you come to the farmers market. It's been just a fantastic, fun summer. And at the end of the month, we'll be having a pet adoption. So it's the first time we've done this in Van Ness, and we're really excited about it. So I hope if you're looking for a pet, come on down. We also have Jazz at VN, which is our normal monthly jazz series, which will be at Soapstone Market next Thursday. So those are kind of some of the items that we're having in Van Ness at the moment. But there's always new opportunities for new things. So if you're interested in doing something different in Van Ness, just contact me. It's T. Cameron, C-A-M-E-R-O-N, at vannessmainstreet.org. So thanks. I'm going to pass these around too.
Thanks, Teresa. Any other community announcements? Okay, great. At this time, I'm going to move on to the seventh item on our list. I'd like to welcome down the Assistant Superintendent of Early Learning, Elizabeth Gruginski, and her colleague, Eva Laguerre. They're going to talk to us a little bit about the Mayor's Child Care Initiative and the new center that will be going into UDC.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Elizabeth Gruginski, Assistant Superintendent for Early Learning.
And I'm Eva Laguerre, Director for Licensing and Compliance for Austin.
And we are excited to be here tonight to share. We had a request to come and talk a little bit about the new site, the new childcare site that's going to be, I think, in this building or on the UDC campus. So the mayor, as you know, has been very supportive of early childhood over the last 2 to 3 years. I've been at OSSI since 2014. Eva's been there
Since 2012.
2012. And I think the initiative that she started with us was this year in FY18, we have the Access to Quality Childcare Expansion Funds. She gave us $11 million in this year's budget. $9 million of it is literally to build new facilities for infants and toddlers, for slots, not brand new facilities, but to help our child development operators across the city expand or renovate their space, so that we can create 1,000 new infant and toddler slots across the District of Columbia by the year 2020. So that was $9 million. She also invested another $2.5 million in actual scholarships and funding because we need to improve our workforce. We have set a new requirement for by 2023, all lead teachers in our child development facilities will need to have an associate's degree in early childhood, or at least an associate's degree with 24 credit hours in early childhood. A really critical piece of expanding childcare is that it be of high quality. I think the other area, and then the other piece that she funded within that Access to Quality Childcare Fund were 2 contractors who would work at DCRA and work with OSSI, because we know that to operate any business in the District of Columbia, you have to interface with DCRA. And for our childcare operators who operate at very slim margins, any types of delays they experience in permitting, in getting their certificates of occupancy, can really impact their bottom line. So these contractors will be housed at DCRA, but Eva, over the last 3 years, has developed really strong working relationships, not only with DCRA, but DOEE, Department of Health, and FEMS. We actually have an MOU with Fire Emergency Management. We pay for the fire inspections annually for our licensed child development facilities, so that because there was a lot of delays. Again, a child development operator would call FEMS to get an inspection. We would go out to license, they wouldn't have that inspection. So a lot of this effort has been the mayor's focus on better coordination across district agencies and better support for our small businesses, mostly all our small businesses, child development centers. So the other thing she did is she said, we want to make district government buildings available to child development operators so that they can, again, not have to pay some of the extreme rents and mortgages that they have on their facilities. So she located both UDC and the Deanwood Rec Center, working with DGS. This effort is actually being led through the Deputy Mayor of Education's office, and it was last month, I think, they awarded the 2 centers. So CommuniKids, how many of you are familiar with CommuniKids up on Wisconsin? Yes. They won the RFP for the UDC Center, and an organization called Kitty University, who has 2 child development centers in the city right now, won the Deanwood Recreation Center, which when Deanwood was built, and it's in Ward 7, it was actually built with 4 child care classrooms in it. So this is exciting because we're able to expand now an additional, I think it's over 50 or 60 additional slots. The site here at UDC for CommuniKids will be for pre-K children. I think 2 pre-K 4 and a pre-K 3 classroom. But I think they're coming tonight. I think Raul had said, the person who is the owner of CommuniKids, and he can answer some of your more technical questions, because once the site gets licensed by us, it's really it's a private business. So all of our child development facilities are private businesses. They decide their operating hours, they decide their policies. They have certain regulations they have to follow through OSSI, but they get to a lot of those decisions. So I think overall, the other thing that the mayor is very interested in is that we all know that childcare is not affordable for most families, regardless of income in the district, and so really thinking about ways that we can create more economies of scale and more efficiencies across the city. We've been investing in some shared services models so that more back office support can help relieve some of the pressure of these, small, mostly female-owned businesses across the city. And then also expanding our child care subsidy program so that we can, for low-income families, up to 250% of poverty are eligible to have their child care paid for by the District of Columbia if they enroll their child in a facility that accepts the child care subsidy. I think you had some other questions. Did you want to open it up for questions? Or?
Sure, we'll do it for questions up here. I'm going to defer to Commissioner Adelstein and go from there. I know you send along some.
There were just a couple of other questions that had come in from the commission beforehand, so just to remind us of those. One was whether the mayor sees this as a longer-term strategy with the goal of opening additional centers in city-operated buildings. And another was if you could speak to the potential impact on the challenges some Ward 3 families have had getting their children placed in pre-K programs near their homes.
Especially in the context of the mayor's commitment to the sort of universal pre-K.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for that question. So, for most of you, you know that we do have universal preschool at the District of Columbia. That means that any family with a 3 or a 4-year-old has access to a slot, whether that's the slot that is near their home or near where they work. That is, still something I think that we continue to look at. In Ward 3, you're mostly going to DCPS elementary schools, I think. Is that correct? There's not a lot of other public charter schools up in this area too?
No, that's right.
Right. Yeah. They're mostly DCPS. And I know that DCPS prioritizes pre-K 4 in this part of the city. But CommuniKids did come in as one of our community-based organizations last year. So OSSI, through our division, we actually designate every year centers that meet the high-quality designation. So CommuniKids came in, they had quite a big wait list. This year they came back and said, we want to double. And we said, great, that's good. So they're going to be, I think, doubling for the 18-19 school year. So every year we open that up to community-based organizations across the city who do accept public funding to become part of the universal pre-K program in the District of Columbia. So that is something that if people are interested, we always send it out every year to every facility that meets the minimum qualification, which is that they have to be accredited and that they do have to accept public funding. So they might serve 20%, 10% of children who receive public subsidy, and then they can become part of the pre-K enhancement program, which is a really nice way to, I think, support both just the childcare growth in the city. And the mayor definitely, I know, is looking at where are other district-owned buildings that they can expand pre-K, but I did ask the deputy mayor, the interim deputy mayor of education, but I did not hear back. I know that's part of the effort they're doing with DGS, and we can definitely follow up and get back to you in terms of what the timeline is for that. But overall, her vision is to make sure that all of our district families with young children have access to both quality and affordable childcare. I would say there's a study that's going to come out next month that you all will be probably very interested in. The Bainham Family Foundation has funded a childcare supply and demand study. With that study release, it'll be an electronic format release. There will also be a map, and an interactive map where you can look at any part of the city. You can see what childcare centers are there, what child development facilities, which schools are there, and you can overlay different. Ask yourself, have different questions where you can see where there are areas that we call childcare deserts, places where young families don't have access necessarily to care near where they live. And it took into account the commuter. We have 450,000 people who commute to the city every day to work. That was an interesting fact that came out of the supply and demand. And about 10,000 children come here and put a demand on our child care facilities every day for those families who commute into the city and use our supply of child care, which makes sense. Some of our families commute out, but not nearly as many as commute in. And then it also looked at how families commute around the city and use care in different places. So it's very good. It's going to come out probably around mid-July. We'll definitely make sure you all know it, and you guys have. You can just. I think it'll be really helpful to ANC members and other community leaders to really look at their particular neighborhood and see where the supply gaps are and where there might be a need. And then we'll be using that data, and we already are using it with the Access to Quality Child Care Fund to decide where we should prioritize applications. We received 22 applications. We competed the funds to a group called the Low Income Investment Fund, the Community Development Financial Institution. They are taking applications from facilities all over the city, and Eva can talk a little bit about the work she's doing with DCRA and LIF, going out and checking out these new facilities. 3 of them are in Ward 3. One, St. Albans, has just been awarded, so they'll expand by another 34 infant and toddler slots just by getting the funding from this quality fund for renovation and repair. We have 2 more in Ward 3 that are in the pipeline to be approved, and we have facilities all over the city that are, some are new builds and some are just needing renovation, repair, materials to open up a classroom that they didn't have funding to support. Do you want to add anything?
He was going to talk about the
Okay.
So, just for the expansion grant, we have, like you said, we have quite a few in the pipeline, and so we've been working with DCRA to kind of preemptively figure out if some of these facilities will run into issues down the line and help them resolve those issues ahead of time so that when they get past the construction phase or the renovation phase, that they can move into the license phase pretty quickly and get their facility licensed in a reasonable amount of time. One of the biggest issues that we find in the city to providers, besides the supply and demand, is the amount that it costs to rent property or buy property in the district. We're looking at, I think last year, the last check I did was $65 a square foot was the average, and it's quite a bit. So the amount of time that between the time that a facility gets a lease and the time that they get licensed, is all that money they have to have up front before they start making money, before they can even open. So we have seen facilities have a lease for up to a year, spend $75,000 on rent prior to just being able to open and make money. And we know that most facilities, especially if there's that subsidy, won't make that $75,000 back very quickly. So our goal has been to go out to facilities as soon as landlords will let us in the building to find issues and to help them pinpoint what needs to be fixed ahead of time so they can move quickly through their projects and open up quickly. DCRA has been a great partner in that, and then Fire has also been great partners in getting that moving for these food providers that went up with the grant.
Yeah, thank you very much for this, and I don't know if this question for you or actually if it's for Ms. Gray, but we've been working with the university on your space needs and helping, supporting your request for more funding to do rehabilitation, renovation here at UDC, as well as discussing UDC's space needs nearby. So I'm just sort of, how does this using the underutilized space here for, there's designated as underutilized, so the child care center came in fit in with UDC's needs for space, which we know are also, they're great demand.
The space that they're utilizing for the Ultimate Child Development Center, it's just been empty for the past, let's say, year and a half. So as we're a district university, and that space is designated for that, I believe the intention originally was for the university to continue the program again. Then this opportunity came up with the district, so.
And so it's going to stay designated child care center as you go through your renovations that are now you have some of the capital funds for it and things. Okay, great to know. Thank you.
So I think we're just joined by the
business owner.
business owner.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, look, I'm going to come back to you in just a second.
Okay.
Before I do, are we going to have any questions from the audience right now? 1, 2. Okay. I'm going to make a motion to extend debate on this by another 10 minutes. And so we can do that. We do have some specific questions. I think that Commissioner
About the
Adelstein
site,
knows, but do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, we're going to extend it to 8:15. So just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Raul Echevarria. I am the co-founder and president of Communicates Preschool, which has been awarded the UDC site, and we're very happy to become part of the community. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about this program, which is in its very early stages of getting all sorted out, but as much information as we can provide, I'll be glad.
Okay, I think Commissioner Adelstein has one specific to that. I don't know how many details are worked out, but
Yeah,
I'll let her
so
answer.
we did get a question from the commissioner who, this is his SMD, he can't be here tonight. It asked for a lot of details, so I may just follow up by email, but I'll highlight a couple that I know tend to be themes that come up a lot. Could you talk a little bit about what the parking and drop-off arrangements will be for the center, where the playground will be, and what the hours of operation will be?
Okay. In terms of the actual drop-off area and pickup area, that's still being dealt with. We're talking with the university to make sure that it makes sense with their plans. I understand that previously the parents had actually driven into the garage, and because there's a 30-minute kind of grace period for it, that they would be able then to just walk the children up to the space. But there's also possibilities of also perhaps having a turnaround or something like that. That's still being under discussion. In terms of hours of operations, we would start at 8 o'clock with before care, and then it would run. Our services would run until 6 p.m. So it would be open until 6 p.m. for parents, maybe a little bit of aftercare. What was the other question?
The playground location.
The playground. There's a beautiful playground that is right adjacent to the Child Development Center. It has great space. I love it's one of those cushy surfaces for the and one of the great things which we are really very happy about is that all of the classroom space actually has access to the outdoors. So you have indoor and outdoor space adjacent to the classroom, which is quite unique and is truly ideal to be able to.
Great, well, I can get your email address and send you the other specific questions, but mainly just thank you for coming, and if the ANC can be helpful to you in any way, or if you have questions as you're progressing with your plans, please do reach out to us.
Great, and we'll be in touch as negotiations progress and as things kind of start to fall into place, so you can be informed and you can inform the whole community as well.
Great, thank you.
Do you have any questions from the commissioners still? No? Okay, Mr. Kennedy. Yes.
I will find out. Ask your second question. I will get it for you.
10,000 kids who live outside of the district, they
Estelle?
Now, I just have a question. When you started talking about four-year-olds, three-year-old program,
Yep.
and that's attached to the school system. So that program you're talking about, the UC, that's just strictly childcare.
Do you want to talk?
It is not daycare. We are a CBO, a community-based organization that has been designated by OSCE as a high-quality early childhood education provider. So we actually are a full-service preschool. Actually, we're a language immersion preschool. So our students are getting kindergarten readiness.
Why would the insurance then that's the school system? I
I-
see the need for daycare for kids who do it, but why is this like a charter school?
So we consider all learning from birth to 5 early care and education. So we don't use the term daycare, it's early learning, and so what,
How does it fit in, say, the Lafayette school? That's my school. Or how would it
So-
fit in there?
it's a great question. So in the District of Columbia, we have a 3-sector universal pre-K program, which means we have public charter schools, DCPS, and community-based organizations, which have to be licensed child development facilities that meet certain high-quality standards. So Communikids is part of the universal pre-K program. Families go there, no charge to them. They come from 8 to 3, or they have to serve them 6.5 hours a day.
I just have one other question.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher in the school system, you can use it online, and then also talking about potentially the certificate subsidy. And you're saying your program, all they will be not until 2025 is the subsidy.
Oh.
So how does that fit?
Thank you.
For
One of the high-quality standards that they have to meet is, in the pre-K program, is they have to have bachelor-level teachers, and they have to have an assistant teacher with an associate's degree. So if you're receiving the uniform per-student funding formula for the pre-K program in a community-based organization, you have to meet these higher standards. You have to pay those teachers on parity with DCPS teacher salaries. Exactly. And they came in last year. We had a big wait list.
Yes.
We expanded this year. We have 26 community-based organizations providing universal pre-K in our community-based sector.
Are you taking funding, I can see it, I'm sorry, are you taking funding from the public school?
No. They are private businesses, so that's great. I'm glad that that's an important point, but they are taking public funds that come to the Division of Early Learning at OSCE that are actually designated to support this 3rd sector. So we know that many families who need the universal pre-K also need wraparound all-day care, and they also need care all day, all year. So they need full day, full year. So the 3-sector system really is part of our parent choice, making sure that families have, can select the type of care that best meets their need and their child's need. So a lot of our Head Start programs, our other early Head Start programs, they also provide this support. So they get some federal dollars, they get some from us, and they get some from our subsidy. So we blend the funding together. Thank you for the questions.
Juanita, did you have one?
I just wanted to add that some of the program staff will be working with our early childhood education department, our students who are working their master's degrees, and faculty and staff in that program.
Any other questions? Would you just mind giving us an email or a contact if people do have more questions in
Yes,
office?
and I have business cards. So
Okay,
I can
great.
leave those too.
Okay, cool. That's fine then.
Okay, I'll give those. You want to say something? Okay. I was going to say, it's for a family of 4 in the District of Columbia. The federal poverty level is $25,100. So 250% of that, if I do my math right, I think is $62,750. Families can come into the subsidy program up to 250% of poverty, and they can stay in the subsidy program up to 300% of poverty. But I think the mayor, we continue with all of our district agencies and our partners to look at ways to make care more affordable, which is part of why the district-owned buildings, if that can reduce the cost to a private operator, they can bring tuition costs down for families and make it more affordable for all families.
Thank you so much. for bringing
Thank you so
everything.
much for being
Ms.
here.
Levere.
Thank you all.
Now we're going to go back in the agenda, and I'm going to invite MPD down to give us a bit of an update and answer some questions that they've gotten from some commissioners lately. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sorry to be delayed. Had a lot of things going on today. MPD accident, suspicious package. So we had to clear that up. But I'm here to answer any questions you guys may have.
Did you have some stuff?
Yeah, so I think it would be great to get a general update on anything we should know about trends in crime in our area. But in particular, so I've been hearing from a lot of constituents at the 3003 Van Ness building. I know there was recently a meeting between the Tenant Association and MPD about some specific concerns of folks getting into the building who shouldn't, following residents and so forth. I was just hoping you could kind of update us on any particular issues you're seeing in this area and anything we should be aware of or encouraging residents to do to ensure safety.
Okay, so we had a meeting with 3003 Van Ness, and so the people are coming in, maybe they're leaving the doors open, or somebody that lives there goes walking in it and the door is really slow to close, and so maybe people are drifting in. But the calls for service for the last year were like 50, mostly domestic disturbances or disorderlies. So what we've discussed is going to their next meeting and actually doing some safety training for the residents of the building. And we also discussed them themselves taking ownership of their building and creating a orange hat per se, where the residents of the building will patrol the buildings, because also the laundromat, they saying suspicious people in the laundromat. So if they developed a little orange hat patrol, we would try to dedicate an officer to walk with them. So those are the things we discussed during that meeting.
Okay. Have you seen an actual uptick compared to recent months or last year?
No,
it's
ma'am.
easy for me sometimes to get that impression if you're hearing a lot, right?
Right.
But
No, ma'am. The 203, theft from autos. So, and theft from autos plagued the entire District of Columbia. But, and especially around here, because of UDC and because of all the parking, theft from autos are high around here. But other than that, there's no uptick in crime in 203.
Okay. Do you have any stats that you want to share with us right now?
I have no stats.
Okay.
Well, so everybody know about mpdc.gov, where you can go online and get all the stats that you need for anywhere in the District of Columbia.
Okay, and that the web address again, would you say that?
mpdc.gov. Okay.
Say that again? What's the address?
mpdc.dc.gov. You can put your address in, run your address. It'll give you all the crime stats, or the crimes that occurred around your address, and you can run it for however long you want it, a year, a month, a week, a day. So, and plus on our list servers, how many is on a list server? Nobody? Because we give daily crime stats on our list server too. And that's 2D at yahoo.com. Is that how it is, 2D? What's, sir, do you know?
I don't know.
Oh,
the
okay,
address.
2D Yahoo groups?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
And you
Yahoo
can get
group.
all the lockups into the, all the crimes that occurred for the entire day. We posted daily.
Okay.
Can I ask you both to introduce yourselves, if you don't mind?
Yes, I thought I did. I'm sorry if I didn't. I'm Sergeant Corinne Hughes. Hughes. I actually used to be the PSA lieutenant, and yeah, and I retired and came back as a sergeant. So.
I'm Officer William McGovern, and I'm assigned to KSA 203. It's my area.
So just two quick questions for you. Number one, if residents of other buildings have safety concerns and would like to partner with MPD on an Orange Hat program, who should they contact? And my other question is, I saw this past weekend an MPD tent outside the Van Ness Metro. Didn't have a chance to go over there. What was that about?
That was a meet and greet.
Okay.
That our lieutenant is Valerie Stewart, that she put together. It was a meet and greet, 203 officers.
I
Yes.
thought you might have something to do with it.
So if you want to create an Orange Hat Patrol, within your building, we can't promise to be there all the time, but when we can, we will be. You can contact me, or you can contact Lieutenant Valerie Stewart. And you can contact anybody that works in the MPD Police Department by their first name, last name at dc.gov. Okay? Yeah, let me spell my first name correctly. Because if you don't get it correct, you won't get to me. It's Corinne. One R, two N's. And you can just, you can email me, and when we have officers available, they will walk with you and meet with you to, go through and patrol your building.
So, looking into a specific issue that came up actually before you arrived, and it has to do with the drop-off area here on Connecticut Avenue at VZ. We've talked a little bit about people utilizing it as a drop-off space for the metro, and it's not supposed to be one. I was wondering if you could speak to that, and whether there's any enforcement actions or the best way to sort of ensure pedestrian safety. And I don't know if Juanita, you have anything more to add on that.
Right. The university is finding it's becoming very congested with people either dropping off or picking up, waiting there for people to get off the metro, or even going into neighborhood establishments. The other day I saw someone park and run into Starbucks. It's a very small area, so if a car is there and then another car tries to turn, we haven't seen much enforcement of people getting tickets. So we are reaching out to the community to get assistance and encouraging people to not use that space for that purpose. It's a street, number one, and it's an entrance to our campus, number two.
Well, I mean, we can definitely do enforcement there, and just remember that once we do enforcement, then everybody gets a ticket. I'm just gonna throw that out there to you, but I'm gonna let McGovern answer that because I'm old. I don't issue out tickets.
Yeah, we can give more special attention. I wasn't aware that it was that much of a.
No, I would say it does need to be balanced with if the Kissing Ride is closed, we don't actually want to encourage people to stop on Connecticut Avenue either to let people off at the metro. That's going to lead to another set of problems. So.
I think that we need to, and we'll be discussing this a bit more about the Kiss and Ride, but this isn't the appropriate use of that roundabout either. Like, I understand not wanting to have people in Connecticut, but.
Right, I just think we need a more holistic recommendation to folks.
Okay.
Because all we're going to do is move the problem from one place with this recommendation to somebody else, to Connecticut. So.
But we'll discuss a bit more on that Kiss and Ride, and so and then I guess Juanita, if we could work with the MPD and we can talk about potential.
Right. So if you give us a particular time, like a 2-hour window, we can do enforcement. We can't do it all day, but if you give me a particular 2-hour window,
okay,
we can do enforcement there.
Okay. We'll email you directly about that.
Okay.
Especially after we discuss a little bit more later in this meeting of the holistic view of the traffic issue there.
So we'd like to invite you to our community campus task force next week.
Sure.
Speak about it then as well.
Okay, sure. Did you get my email address? Okay.
Do you have
Any other questions?
Questions from the community for the sergeant?
All I appreciate your time.
Great, thanks
We
for
appreciate
coming.
yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You guys
you.
have a great evening.
Thank you.
And be safe, please. All right.
Okay, we are going to move back on to, we're on the 8th item on our agenda. This is a discussion of the DC Public Library on the move of the Washingtonia collection to 4340 Connecticut Avenue. I believe Director Reyes Gavilan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Yeah, if you just want to talk a little bit, I think we would all appreciate from an overview of what the collection is, why you need to move it, and then we can go in and have just a discussion on some of the issues that have been flagged for you in the community. But if you just want to start out and kind of have like the reasons for the move and what the
Absolutely.
collection is.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good evening. Hi, folks. I'm Richard Reyes Gavilan. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Public Library. I hope that you all have had a chance to enjoy the new Cleveland Park Library that opened up on Saturday. It is just another spectacular building in a line of relentlessly spectacular destinations for learning here. And we're so proud to have that in the Cleveland Park, Woodley Park, Van Ness community. So enjoy. I'm here tonight to talk about the space that was recently vacated. As you all know, the library had an interim facility, the small retail space at 4340 Connecticut Avenue. And that space has since been vacated as we accelerated the process by which we could open up the new library. What we're planning to do now is for the next year to move the library's somewhat nomadic special collection, Washingtoniana, to that space. For those of you who know Washingtoniana, it is a wonderful collection of photographs, ephemeral collections, genealogical materials, newspapers, all sorts of wonderful things that the community uses, students, researchers, genealogists, local history buffs. This year the collection has been used very much because of all the activity surrounding DC 1968, which is of course the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. If you look at all the photographs that have appeared in the Washington Post or Washingtonian Magazine or the City Paper, so much of what you'll see credited at the bottom is Washingtoniana. So it's a well-used collection. And so what we're proposing is moving that collection to the space at Van Ness. What we like about it is that there is, for whatever reason, somewhat of a concentration of local history enthusiasts who use our Washingtoniana collection, who are located in this part of the city. So our plan is to move it there. It would be a publicly accessible space. Things like the Washington Evening Star Photo Collection, which the DC Public Library is the sole owner of that collection, the DC Historical Image Collection, our vertical files, our city directories, historic DC newspaper microfilm, again, some genealogical material, and we would do some semblance of programming. Of course, it's a very small space. It's 3,000 square feet, so it's not what we will be able to do in the MLK library when it reopens, but we will be able to work with the community on some of the programming that we're really famous for, like our house history workshops for people who want to study their homes. Some school groups would be able to come in to learn how to do primary research material. Small seminars around Know Your Neighborhood. We could partner with any organization, frankly, around here to talk about, well, what's the history of Van Ness? What are the materials that we have here that support that, the study of the neighborhood here? And it is, again, it is a small cultural, I think, gem, at least for a short period of time. What we're trying to do is to extend a lease that we currently have, or at least the city's Department of General Services that manages the library's leases has with UDC. What we're looking to do is extend that lease through the end of that lease, which is July of 2019, at which point we would say so long, thanks for having us, and we would begin the process of slowly moving back into the MLK library as that continues its modernization, and hopefully open up MLK on time in mid-2020. So in just a couple of minutes, that's what we're proposing on doing. I have more information about Washingtoniana if anybody wants to know. And our hours of service, we would be open roughly about 40 hours a week. Again, it's a small collection. It's a service that has a faithful usership, but not the same numbers that would go into a branch library, for example. But we would be open roughly business hours. We would have, when we're not open, we're doing ongoing digitization that we're adding to our large Dig DC collection, which is our digitized library material, photographs, plats, other things of that nature. But it is going to be open to the public. It is a small space, and happy to entertain any questions that you may have or the public.
Okay, I have a few questions. I'll just go and we'll just move them quickly. Then I'll open it up to the rest of us up here. So it's going to be open to the public, and you'll for about 40 hours a week, and you are expecting walk-in hours. Is what I.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Our researchers are adamant about walk-in hours,
okay.
And what that space will allow us that we have not been able to do in the space where we are currently, which is above the museum, is that we cannot provide those walk-in hours because it's a sort of it's an office building that requires people to be let in. But this space, anybody can walk in at any time for research purposes. Those have not been fully vetted, but it will be some combination of some regular, like a 9 to 5 couple of days, and maybe an 11 to 7 couple of days, maybe every other Saturday. And then again, with the resources that the library has, we would hope to do some other type of community programming, maybe under the loggia that's in that space. So for example, a couple of things that we've been thinking about doing, we're going to have a tech truck online pretty soon where we're going to be doing some minimal emerging technologies out of a truck. Maybe we can park on Connecticut Avenue and do some community build days. We've been talking about doing some community scanning days. Some of you know that we have a service that we launched last year or 2 years ago now, the Memory Lab, where we encourage people to bring in their obsolete or formats that are becoming obsolete, photographs, videotape, floppy disks. You come in, we show you how to use some machinery to transfer all that stuff to the cloud, and it's sort of, we make it fun for people to better store their material, and by doing so, you're doing more for the preservation of DC's history, which is ultimately our goal in that collection.
Now, I know we've talked about this importance of programming, in terms of foot traffic. Could you talk a little bit, and I know you've heard it from the community, on the desire to utilize this space for retail?
Yes.
And could you talk a little bit about why this space is appealing to you, why it makes sense in terms of DGS and the lease, and kind of just speak to that a bit?
Yeah, well, there are some very practical reasons. Number one is that the space is already almost fit out for our needs. Because it was serving as a library, we have to swap out some of the shelving to accommodate boxes rather than books, but it is already more or less a library. So there has to be just minimal fit out. There's already a reading room, there's already storage, and there's already a small amount of staff space. So in that regard, it's perfect. And there are no ongoing negotiations that we would have to do. Because the library does not have its own lease authority, the Department of General Services has to go out to the market and begin that process by which it gets, it would secure a lease. And because we're only needing it for a short period of time, it becomes sort of cost prohibitive to go out to the open market at this point to begin doing that. Any space that we were to get now, we would have to look at some interior demolition and some fit out and some build out, and all that time, I've been here for 4 or 5 years, and I've done tons of libraries already and tons of interim spaces, and everything takes a long time. There's just no way. If any of you have done your kitchen, you know that it can take a long time, or a bathroom. It all takes a long amount of time. So practically, it makes a lot of sense for us to stay there because we're there. Secondly, the same reason that the library is a retail shop. We benefit from having exposure to the street. We benefit from having, being near other retail. We benefit from being in lively places. It's no secret that our Cleveland Park Library, which is across the street from all the commerce, sees 250, 300,000 people a year, whereas our Palisades Library, which is not near a ton of commercial and retail, sees maybe half of that. So just speaking as a librarian / businessman, we like a lot of foot traffic for the same reasons that the Gap wants foot traffic or Starbucks wants foot traffic. So those are really the two main reasons. But frankly, it's the practical one that for me overrides everything else. That the system is pretty much is in place for the library to just step in over the course of the summer and just pick up and start its services.
Okay. I have one more thing before I give it to my colleagues. We talked about, and I think you made it akin to a kitchen renovation, and those things can take a while. The MLK renovation, it's scheduled to, take about another year or so, right?
Correct.
Suppose that's delayed. Do you have any plans on staying past July 2019? Or?
No, at this point, I understand that, and we've
Yeah.
spoken, Van Ness Main Street wants that space, they want to activate it with other types of retail, and I completely respect that. The lease that DGS currently has with UDC ends on July 23rd, 2019, and far be it from me to push. If we're invited to stay, great, we will stay. Otherwise, we've already set in motion what our plan would be to begin mothballing the collection, continue to do a robust outreach around the service, but begin the drum roll around the opening of MLK. So regardless of when MLK opens, frankly, we have no recourse but to leave on July 23rd, and I'm not going to leave kicking and screaming. I want to be a good neighbor throughout the whole process.
And again, when is the MLK branch?
MLK is supposed to reopen mid-2020 at this point. But because it's such a large building, substantial completion might be earlier, meaning we can begin the move-in process possibly significantly earlier than we can open because of, again, the size of the building. It's not like a Cleveland Park where all you need is maybe a month or a month and a half to do the same thing.
Question?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear about your community programs that you're planning. I think that'll be very useful to the neighborhood. What about exhibits? You have a lot of good photographs and other visual materials. To have an exhibit that maybe rotates or is somewhat permanent, are you going to have space for that? I think that would be an attractive feature for the neighborhood.
Yeah, what we've been talking about, because it is a very small footprint, and we need tables for researchers and tables. And when a researcher comes in, for those of you who've done special collections work, it's not like sitting at one of these desks for your laptop. You typically need a little bit of room on which to spread out documents or photographs or that sort of thing. So we can make better use of the windows for sure by putting reproductions up of things of that nature, or possibly we can leverage the overhang that's there, and possibly during nice weather without wind we might be able to put some stuff on easels. That would have to be sorted through, but I've heard loud and clear that we're being challenged in some ways to activate it, and we've the library has had a really progressive almost philosophy with its special collections in the past. So right now, for example, some of you may know we've got a great ephemeral collection around the DC punk music scene. And so before we closed the MLK library, we were doing punk music shows that were designed to generate more interest and more donations to the collection. We've got a phenomenal staff. They're very friendly, they're very innovative, and we're always thinking about, we don't take a passive approach where we sort of sit on our hands and wait for researchers to come to us. We really make it a point to make sure that our materials are being used, and so we think about really interesting ways to engage the local community, and I'm sure we will be doing that for the period of time that we're there.
Thank you.
Questions? Questions? Do we have questions from the audience? One? All right, let's do it.
It's very exciting, and I certainly hope that you can come on your here. I've taken that house hunting, Houston Street, talk down in MLK.
Great.
It's a fabulous place. It's been very exciting. But the other thing too is you mentioned memory lane. I was down at and the advertising as though it was going to be there or something, and it turned out it was just going to come on and really house it across town. So if you were to, could you bring a memory lane here and let it stay till July 2019?
The problem with the space, again, it is so small. And having a memory lab station would probably be, we would be giving up more real estate than we frankly had. We do want to do sort of community scanning days, and we do want to bring the memory lab back to Cleveland Park on a rotating basis. I'll be quite honest with you, we would love to do it, and it's not a cost issue, it's really a space issue. Yeah, our plan is to do it regularly, not have a fixed station. And part of what we need to do at the new Cleveland Park Library is monitor the use, because that building is also so busy and there was so much demands for meeting space. We don't want to co-opt any of it for a library program unless we feel that some of the spaces are underutilized. And I don't think it will be, but yeah, I'll take that back. I mean, you know, again, it's a brand new building and it's a very big building, so we might be able to sort of explore ways in which we can do it. Right now we're doing it at the Northeast Library in Capitol Hill, and there's maybe one or two other libraries, but I can't remember.
Any other questions? Please.
I have a question. I'm Marlene Berlin.
Oh, hi.
My understanding is that this will not be the full collection because you have it in some of it in other locations. So what specifically will be at this location?
Everything I mentioned would be at this location. Correct. What I have not mentioned are the things that are either less popular or things that you can access elsewhere through another repository, whether it's the Library of Congress or the Historical Society of Washington, D.C. The things that we prioritize in a space like this one, or frankly where we were before at the museum, or where we were before, which was at the Carnegie Library, are the things that we know our researchers and residents use the most, like the Washington Star photograph collection and those sorts of things.
Great. Director Reyes-Gavilan, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Looking forward
Thanks
to
so
it.
much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have an update from Washington Gas on some upcoming projects in ANC 3F.
Just the presentation.
No. Do we have a representative from Washington Gas? Okay, moving on, we're gonna move forward to the Pepco Exelon presentation. I know you guys need to use that projector, so let's take that and set up. If you want to just give an introduction of yourself, and well, we can work on this AV stuff.
I'll get started.
Want to put it up here? I think you might get it better.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Greenan. I'm External Affairs Manager at Pepco. With me tonight is Phil Lopez. You'll be hearing from him shortly. He's the senior engineer on the project that we'll be describing shortly. Also, Tavoris Culpepper and Jamal Jordan, who are helping set up. They're in our External Affairs department. I know we also have somebody here. Elijah is one of our ANC ambassadors. We started a program where we're coming to every ANC throughout the city, and so she will be coming. We see her periodically at these meetings. So thank you very much. We have a project that we'll be doing at Wisconsin and Van Ness. In and around Wisconsin and Van Ness, there's really 4 projects, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The purpose of those projects is to energize, bring power to our Harrison Street substation, which has been undergoing a modernization and update now for several years. We started last year with the final phase, and now it will actually probably go online this time next year. And so the Wisconsin and Van Ness projects have to do with energizing and tying in transmission lines so that we can bring power to that substation. Some of you may be familiar. I'll just quickly tell you a little bit about the Harrison Street substation.
while this is going on, by the time we get there, we'll probably have information about Van Ness and Wisconsin. So, but the Harrison Street substation is at 5210 Wisconsin Avenue. From where Johnson's used to be, and lots of feeders coming in, and so there were several. I have to do it from memory, but there were a variety of reasons. Animal got into something, and a tree branch fell down. There was a cable issue that we replaced, and
One
so
fuse box failure. I
and a
believe.
fuse box. Yeah. So there was a variety of things. So.
But it's
don't
just
know
sort
which.
of related to everyday work and just the sort of age of the system.
Yes. Well, and you had asked also, do we have any? I guess the question is, well, because of this, there were probably 10, I would say, that spanned maybe 6 or 7 feeders.
Mm-hmm.
So our reliability folks said they didn't feel like it warranted a huge program
Mhm.
of doing a whole reliability makeup, but they are tracking
Mhm.
this area. I know Hearst has had some issues quite a number of times, so we're tracking it.
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else have?
Yeah, or the question.
I'm just very curious, I have utilized like other utility websites to get information on Edward or connection. And compared to other websites, especially on the project on Davenport Street, that where the roadway was closed for I think 2 years, there was no information about that project.
It's on top of the wire.
Okay, we got something here? Okay, here you go. So I'm gonna flip through this very quickly and land on the facade issue, just so that you can see the windows and what we're gonna be doing with that. And then we'll go right into Van Ness in Wisconsin. Okay, good job, guys. Okay, so this was some scaffolding that was in front of the building. Actually, the windows were all bricked up for a long time. So we just took the bricks off and the windows are now open, but this was the limestone that they were cleaning, and they literally were cleaning like by hand. It was pretty impressive. And so this is something about the historic designation, and so in accordance with the designation, the limestone will be cleaned and repointed, the chipped terracotta, which is the black base around the bottom and around the door, it's going to be beautiful. The storefront windows will be open. We're going to fix the clock, so the clock will work. And so this is kind of what we envision it looking like. And again, this is across from Sir Latapa. So, and it will be a community space that will be used by nonprofits. We're in the process of figuring out how we're going to use it, but it will be a community space, and we'll certainly reach out. We're going to be working with 3E, ANC 3E, and we'll certainly work with ANC 3E on that. So that's that. Here's another rendering of it. And we also, just FYI, we have also in addition with getting the substation online, we are going to be doing some conduit work along, this is Wisconsin, this is Harrison, this is Ingomar, Jennifer. So for that 2 blocks, we're resizing, these are all manholes, the blue are all manholes, so we'll be doing some work there. That will begin in August. We'll go through the end of the year. So we'll be trenching along there, so just FYI. We want to do that quickly, get out of the way of the businesses, but so that'll be going on too. So now we come to Van Ness and Wisconsin. So we have, beginning in early September, we'll be doing some work in the block, the 3600 block of Van Ness. We'll be doing some work at 4201 Wisconsin Avenue and 4200 Wisconsin Avenue. And then we will also be working at our substation, which is at 4000 Van Ness. And so we are talking right now to DDOT about our traffic control plan. Don't really have any information about that, but we're working on that. We will keep everybody apprised, and we will begin. We've already outreached to the folks in the 3600 block and have met with Commissioner Dickinson, and we'll continue to do that. And so with that, I'm going to ask if Bill Lopez, our engineer, will come up and want to talk about. Let's start with the work at 4201 and 4200, and then we can move into 3600 Van Ness, because that will probably take the longest time. Can you move it down? Oh.
How many years have
I don't. No. I'm sorry. I know. Yeah. Yeah. No. It never wasn't.
Words to describe this.
Sorry.
I'm the transmission engineer for this project. And what I hope I had some pictures to show you that makes things a lot easier. But what I'm going to do is first just give you a big overall picture of what the transmission part of this project consists of. This transmission line is about 5 miles long. It begins at our Bethesda substation, the old Georgetown Road in Maryland. It ends at our O Street substation northwest, and also Van Ness substation. Van Ness. With our new substation, well, model substation of Harrison, we designed to bring the new higher power transmission lines into Harrison to feed that for better reliability, quality, power factor, all that good stuff. So what we have, we've already, for the last year and a half, we have placed.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is because of what's going on at Harrison that you need to do this bit?
Absolutely. We have to tie into the transmission lines that reside in the ground since the mid-60s. So what will happen is the bulk of the new line has been run. What we have to do now at this stage is actually take the old line and cut it over to the new line to feed Harrison. And these are the spot locations that we will be impacted that have been working taking place. The first location, there's actually 3 locations on Van Ness Street. There is at the intersection of Wisconsin and Van Ness, on the east side of Van Ness, on Wisconsin east side, and the west side, just basically about 100 feet in on each side. We will be excavating at that location to access our underground transmission line. And that's what we'll be doing in the cutovers from the new lines to the old lines. At the location, excuse me, 3600 block of Van Ness, there's about, I believe, next slide. Yes. So these are the homes, the addresses there that we will basically be taking up the footprint for the equipment that is needed to make this transition. There'll be multiple different tasks going on at different times. The project will begin right after Labor Day, September 5th, and we are slated to be out of there before Thanksgiving, that week of Thanksgiving. During that time frame, we will have different activities going on at these different locations. The biggest impact, the longest duration impact at this location will be basically a 6-day, 24-hour period where we have to be there and actually terminate the existing cables to the old cable. And due to the nature and technology of this type of line, it requires a 24-hour operation for 6 days. It's a round-the-clock type of job. It's just the nature of the technology. There's nothing we can do about it. So we presently, right now, are lining everything up from Maryland Parks, Little Falls Parkway, SHA on River Road, and DDOT. We were at DDOT today, this morning, or earlier this afternoon, presenting this to them, getting ready for our submission for all our permits, occupancies, and anything that we get from the AMCs, we also pass it on to the jurisdiction of what they will advise us what we can do, we can't do. Because basically, we're governed by whatever DDOT wants us to do in the roadway. But what we can do is we write justification letters. So if there's other things that a community wants, request, we can be the conduit for that and actually present that to DDOT. How they rule on it, we don't know. But it's just something that we can help do. So once this project's in 2 phases because there's actually 2 transmission lines. This is the biggest impact that's significant comes this fall. Once we complete this work in the fall, we will begin in February, March of the following year to the 2nd phase. But it won't be impacting this area at all. It's basically from the Maryland portion right into the Van Ness substation. And the impact of what we're here seeing today and talking about won't be here again. We explain some of the tasks that are at the locations, or I mean, I can deep dive. I can do that and answer some of the questions. Yes.
I'm sorry, we're going to ask questions. And if you can, no, sorry. If you could just talk a little bit more about the traffic issues that you might envision, and then some potential steps that we can do to take care of them. And then we're going to go to the other commissioners, right to you.
Well, right now, we don't have exactly the information about how things will be impacted. As Bill said, we are before DDOT right now, submitting our permit applications and the transportation control plans. So we don't have all that right now, but we do know that we will be on the 3600 block of Van Ness.
Typical traffic control for that nature of this type of work, what DDOT will basically do is, since it's a two-way road, it'll basically be flagging out first. So they'll have the flagging on the west side and the east side, and they will control the traffic that way based on because they're all licensed certified flaggers for the district flaggers. So whatever traffic control that DDOT refers to us, we have to enforce it. So our inspectors come out daily, check, they start seeing there's traffic issues. And then the brings up something, then DDOT gets back and inspector comes out and says, we've got to make some modifications. But that's the typical procedures that we will put in for traffic rules and locations. We will show everything. They will come back with what's approved and what has to be revised. But typically at this location, you're looking at like a flat operation.
I also just want to let everybody know the community, we're trying to be proactive about this, planning on acting as a conduit with PEPCO and DDOT and things like WMATA. I know there's a bus route that goes down there. We talked about some potential solutions, including limiting the metered parking on 36th Street, all the projects going on. I expect at our next meeting, we'll be looking at a resolution and or a letter regarding some specific recommendations for DDOT. Okay? Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, do these specific construction projects need to be approved by the PSC directly in order to move ahead?
No.
So this just is funding that's part of what eventually is going to be asked to be recouped from ratepayers?
Some of it, yes.
Some of it, right.
Yes.
Okay, so I like the idea of having a pretty building, but I'm wondering about how critical that kind of construction is and all of the downwind repercussions of this in order to, improve the reliability of things. Is reliability interlinked here or?
Very much, yes. This is all about,
Are any of these outages, for instance, connected to Harrison?
Not at all. Not at all.
Talk about how this will
Look, go ahead.
The transmission infrastructure, here's the easy way to look at it. The transmission infrastructure is like the federal highway system, okay? So it's used by everybody. You want to go to Maine from here, you jump on 95. County roads are what's basically, we already resolved that. And that's what the distribution system is, so you get that analogy of what's happening. So whatever we do here to bring in power to supply a local area, in this case, Harrison, then it increases the reliability of it, but it's all based on the substation itself. You need the power of that station so that it can supply the customers. And that's what the transmission line system does. As you can see, this typical line basically starts in Bellsville and ends at the banks of Hancock. That's the full integrated system of this transmission. And it feeds a lot of different locations. You can see that geographical area. So when you get into the reliability of a community, that's based on the substation itself. That power is brought down to a lower and then distributed out. So when there's problems with the fingers, the distribution side of the business looks at that, takes care of it, and resolves it. If that substation has problems with power coming into it, that's the transmission side. So that sort of gives you a picture of how this whole system works.
But it does increase the capacity of the system, and it increases the reliability and the resiliency, everything about the system.
Essentially, this is the cost of modernization from the 1940s.
I'm not sure that I would agree with that. I mean, that's a statement that you've made, obviously, but
I'm offering that to see if I'm understanding it correctly.
there are many other proposals out there for grid modernization that have nothing to do with, this is sort of a business as usual model. And so
Well, that's
there are
another-
many other modernization options out there.
Another opinion, but it's true. I mean, we've been at this since 2011, doing this modernization to basically recognize the increase in the needs in the community. This will address that, and this work in particular is just part of what we have to do. It's not anything that is different or unique to that. It's that we have to tie in the transmission lines so that Harrison can be energized.
Commissioner Siddiq,
But could you also explain and let them know some of the outages, especially in this area?
I did.
Sometimes that are due to down wires
We did.
from trees. Oh,
I did that.
so-
Joel.
Okay.
Hi, Barbara Alder, 3633 Van Ness.
Okay.
6 days, 24 hours. How loud
We're gonna
is
be
that?
south of you. We won't be parking in front of you, but we'll be there.
How loud is it?
Anything that makes noise above the talking dB level of 70-some dBs will be done during the day. When the night work happens, typically what I can give you an example of what night work is there's an environmentally controlled truck that parks over the top of that manhole. Okay, and that seals that manhole to that truck, and the men that are working will go from the truck in, and there's a pickup truck outside for outside assistance, whatever's needed. That's all internal to the truck, so there isn't any loud equipment going on. If we've had a situation where a piece of equipment had failed, the contractor, they replaced it, turned out to be loud, we were notified, and turned right around and told the contractor they got replaced. Yes.
Just digging in, are you gonna have like a project page or any community needs to contact?
Absolutely. I'm going to stay in touch with every single one of you and let you know the day ahead, this is what we're going to be doing. You'll have my number, you'll have my cell number. Anything happens, you call me right away. I call Bill and we get it solved.
Usually how it works is if there's anything in the community that has an urgent issue, that you can reach right out to Linda. We also have a construction manager that's on the site. And if something urgent comes up, that manager is there or can be reached. And since he's controlling the whole line all day, like we had a problem, the same exact issue, we had a problem on Wisconsin Avenue. There was a blockage in front of one of the businesses. The truck cannot get goods inside, and our construction manager went down and took care of that site, so that allowed that to happen. So these are the things that we're ready to do.
Second comment, flagmen are not maintained.
Okay.
We have 3 blocks back on Morning Rush, Forest, Connecticut, and Wisconsin, Wisconsin. With both lanes open for parking. So whoever's doing this, TDOT or whoever needs to possibly go
That's their traffic department reviews that, and they'll come back and say, we won't grant this year, you probably, I don't want to speak for them, but they're gonna come back and tell us, and we implement what they ask us to do. And then what happens is daily, their inspectors go by, if they start to see other problems, then they'll come in and say, you've got to do some additions. That's cool. So,
3607, parking, and I mentioned this to you, Mr. Lopez, but I'll state it for the record. There are a number of residents on the street who only have on-street parking, and so it would be very helpful to us, and ultimately I think to you all, if in advance, perhaps you could do an inventory of which residences and which cars, how many cars that is, so that we can look at the street and consider how those people who have only blocking traffic completely in order to pull up a car, double park, take up the only lane, and unload things. So that would be one thing I think to think about. I think there's a solution there. Our street, as the ANC knows, is plagued by a lot of non-residential parking, and it might be very helpful to as I think you may have mentioned, get rid of the parking meters on Reno and 36th Street, because students and teachers from Merch, and I presume from Eaton, don't want to pay for parking meters, so they come and park on our street. We have problems now unloading and that sort of thing. But I think these are things that are manageable. It would suggest that some sort of resident parking only, generically, and then depending on whether some of the residents have back entry capacity or access, others don't. So if we could sort that out, and gives the number of open spaces that will be available on the street during this, that would seem to be a feasible way to go.
The swatch that I gave our civil consultant for turning in the traffic control plans is basic from 360709, is the one end of it, stopping around 21. Okay. But I also left a gap in there for a vehicle that needs to get in there, possibly, like you say, I need to get in here and do something to my home.
Yeah.
So I stretched it a little bit longer to allow a gap, just in case. Because Linda brought up, I think, some of your concerns, and I said, well, to try to help accommodate, let us, in the work center, your local traffic, and I'll bring it up to our construction manager, that we're trying to accommodate this as best we can.
There may be some sort of resident permit, parking permit.
Yeah, something we can talk with DDOT about. I know about other projects, they made it just for residents of that block.
I think that's gonna go a long way, because our biggest problem are non-residential parkers.
What I can offer you today, based on what you just stated, you spoke to DDOT today, and I brought up a question about the ANC has some concerns and issues about some of the things that we talked about. And what Dr. Petrosi said today, he said, well, if you have if the ANC can submit a justification letter of what you're trying to explain, along with a permit or a request for a permit, I think it'll get a little more attention than a standalone.
Let me work with you. Commissioner Dickinson, I know, we met with you to talk about this, and we will do that long in advance of this project. Thank you for that.
A couple of questions. I'm from the NSF 36, I apologize. This whole row is people who live on that except for at the end. We turned out because we know we're going to have the nightly noise or whatever it is. Will we know the specific dates? In other words, there are people who may be planning maybe deliveries like on a refrigerator or a washer or dryer, so they know, let's not schedule this next week and such and such a week.
Our protocol for this, what we do, and Linda can elaborate on it, is she will do a mass mailing of giving you the full, basically what we're talking about here, on or around this date, and ending around this date.
You want a specific date?
Absolutely, right. So what we've done in the past, well, actually for this project that we were building down in Wisconsin and all the other areas, 48 hours prior to a vehicle pulling up at your location, we hang door knockers. And we put those at your door and stayed on Monday the 4th at 7 o'clock. Have those contractors showing up, and we'll be here for ABC, whatever it is. So then you will now know, okay, Monday morning they're going to be here, and they're going to be here for 1 day, 3 days, whatever it is. And then if anything, you had any specific requirements or something's happened, in other words, you say, like you said, moving or whatever it is, let us know. And then I'll let the contractor know that we're going to have to make an interim.
Or people are renovate their kitchens and schedule around your dates.
Well, yes, I mean, it's a very dynamic aspect to it that we'll be able to accommodate what you need to do as well.
I want to thank Chief and Linda for getting out early and talking to people in our neighborhood. She's done a great job. She's been very thorough and comprehensive. I really appreciate it. It's very helpful. And we have another concern, which is we're trying to keep people who don't have parking on, behind their houses. they can park on the street, but there are some of us who park through the alley, and if that alley gets blocked, then people park, it's burdens for us. So we need to have, as part of your plan, making clear that the alley must be open at all times. It's pretty far up there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
but
right.
there needs to be some enforcement, or somebody can call real fast when it happens.
Yeah, it'll be, basically what DDOT says is their parking enforcement. So if anyone's violating the parking enforcement,
That's one of the most confusing systems in the city. We have to call 911 and we think, I know this guy's parking in front of the hydrant, and we don't like that, but you feel so bad calling 911.
I hear you, I feel you, because we had a project down South Capitol Street, and there was an abandoned vehicle right exactly where we had to work. It took 2 weeks to get that abandoned vehicle.
But you will have my commitment. I think it would be a good idea to organize an email service of everybody, so that even before you get the 48-hour door knocker, you get an email from us. So you have our commitment to do that.
We're looking forward to working with David and the ASC.
Yes.
Following up on what Brenda's saying about the alley, current blockages often occur because of use of the alley by people who live on BZ. So there may be some advantage to grouping those residents in on the information distribution and requesting their awareness and sensitivity to the same kinds of attention to gaze.
Okay. And that's Commissioner Dickinson's street, right?
Yeah.
Is that, yes.
I'm sorry?
Is that where Commissioner Dickinson lives?
Yes, we live at 3700 block.
Oh, okay. Right. But no, that's a good idea, yes.
Question, if I may, are all your electrical manhole covers on the blacktop in the street?
That's correct.
So that's all drainage, stormwater manholes that the trees
That's correct.
We have a series of small trees that have taken 9 years to get to 6 or 12 feet again after losing our two generations of
As you can see, the distribution side of it is the overhead poles that feeds the homes. There's one transmission manhole, and that happens to be at the location.
But we're going to need, where the trucks are going to be
Yes.
the supply of nitrogen.
Yes.
These two trees I know of that need actual steel poles, chain link.
Absolutely,
fence,
yeah, that's DDOT's requirement.
Oops, we're sorry, is not going to do it.
Absolutely.
That's all part of our scope of work. Contractor has to protect all vegetation, that DDOT requires. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions?
The only two locations that the street would be excavated is at the intersection of Wisconsin and Van Ness on just either side. And that's an area, and also right next to the manhole that we have here, we have a little small freeze pit that goes just behind the manhole to access the pipe and freeze the terminal. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate your help and your input. And
We appreciate the responsibility that you are taking in advance. It's very helpful.
Okay, I am going to use a little commissioner's or chair's discretion right now. Originally with the meeting, we had separated the WMATA, or we had moved WMATA behind 4250. 4250, we're going to need to set up this projector, and I don't want to get delayed like we did, so we're going to set that up. While we're doing that, if WMATA could come up and talk about the L1, L2 changes, I'm going to make a motion to basically separate our 12th item into 2 items, and we'll talk about L1, L2 first, and then we'll talk about 4250 and the kiss and ride after the larger presentation. So if I could make a motion to separate those items and change the agenda that way. Do you have a second?
Yeah, second.
A second. All in favor? All right. Yes. You're Christine? All right. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Marsh. I'm from Metro's Office
you have a
of
projector.
Bus
Okay.
Planning.
Just use your
Some of you may
projector.
be familiar with the currently being undertaken 42, 43, L1,
L2 study, the Connecticut Avenue Mount Pleasant line study, which is currently underway. For the past decade or so, Metrobus has been going corridor by corridor through the system, having a closer look at the current service and if it meets the needs of today in 2018. Some of the service on Connecticut Avenue, the core service, and in Mount Pleasant follows basically the same routing and the same service pattern as when streetcars were in this area. And so I think it's time that we have a look and see if we're meeting the needs of today, if we're going to where people want to go at the times people want to go. So this study began in 2017, where we launched an initial survey with bilingual outreach teams riding the buses, getting initial feedback about what people said are the problems they want us to try to solve. As the study progressed, working with DDOT on this study, we came up with an initial set of recommendations, which was then brought out to a second survey, which was also online. In April and May, we also again had outreach teams riding the buses administering the survey, and we actually received quite a bit of response. We received 5,800 responses to our survey, which is about half of the number of total riders on all of these lines that are being studied. So we got quite a bit of public feedback to inform our next set of recommendations. So where we're at right now is the recommendations were further refined and will be presented at a round of open houses tomorrow night and Thursday night. So tomorrow night at the UDC Law Library from 6 to 8 p.m. in room 515. There's an open house. It's not exactly... I have law library. I think it's law school. Okay. I'll have to double check on that. Okay.
I have at Law Library, room 515.
Okay, so law school. Okay.
You guys might, if you guys are going to do some announcement tomorrow, that might be worth flagging.
And maybe even put some signs up so people. So Teresa, where would signs need to be put up if people are might be going the wrong place, just so they know?
Well, the law libraries
Yeah, so we have been advertising this incorrectly apparently, so it'll be important to label the rooms where people might end up going and let them know where to go.
Okay, thank you. So that's the first meeting tomorrow night, and it's an open house, so it's not as if you have to be there at a particular time. It's not going to be sit down and listen to a presentation. It'll be boards showing the proposals and staff people from DDOT and Metrobus able to talk with people on a one-on-one basis. So you can show up at any time in that period. And then the second meeting is Thursday night, the 21st, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Columbia Heights Community Center at 1480 Girard Street, between right there at 15th and Girard Street. So again, that's open house format, so you can come at any time throughout that. So we're at this stage. We're going to. We have a refined proposal, which is basically for the L1, L2. The only real significant proposals that we are making are to change the routing around Potomac Park to try to avoid some of the bottlenecks on Constitution Avenue and the PM rush hour, which have been impacting reliability. So we're looking for a new terminal stand closer to Virginia Avenue and 21st Street, still in the general Potomac Park area, to still serve the State Department if we can. So we're looking to make some rerouting adjustments downtown, and then also to make some routing adjustments near DuPont Circle, as we have found that the Massachusetts Avenue and Florida Avenue segment of the route has been causing us also a lot of reliability issues, so we want to adjust that as well.
So could you clarify, because I remember when this was announced that there was a number of potential stops being removed, and also I think there was one thing on the table about service being stopped in Woodley Park on the weekends. Are those no longer being considered?
So the Woodley Park proposal was taken off the table.
Okay.
It didn't advance to the next round. We still have the stop consolidation information considered in the proposals, and you'll see that on boards if you attend the meeting. They're also online, all the information about that at wamata.com/bus. You can find that information. As of now, we have received quite a bit of comments, as we always do when one proposes to consolidate or close a bus stop. So it may be it's probably very likely that not all of those will, move forward to implementation. But just as a background to why we look at these things when we're going through these studies, we do have a bus stop spacing guideline to try to make the buses run as efficiently as possible. If we had a stop in front of every single person's house, it wouldn't go everywhere, but if there was a stop every mile, it would also not be accessible. So our standard is to have bus stops every about 4 or 5 per mile, depending on the land use and walkability in the area. So we did come up with proposals to consolidate stops to be more in line with that standard in our bus stop guidelines document. And all of the stops that were proposed for consolidation have less than 50 riders per day using them, so they do vary widely, but they're all less than 50 per day. So we only considered on the list stops that are less than 50 riders and that did not meet the spacing guidelines. But based on the feedback that we've heard about specific stops, that list will likely be shorter.
Could you give us an idea of the timeline you're looking in terms of getting additional feedback from the new changes and up until and including implementing it?
So we have service change dates several times throughout the year, so it is likely that any major proposals that we make would go through the public hearing with the board in this fall. So any major public changes have to be approved by our board. So there's still a round of input in that process. And based on board approval, we would probably then be implementing changes in June of 2019 as an estimate. So if we were to change the route patterns and change, say, for example, the routing around DuPont Circle, that would probably be 2019. And if we were to remove any bus stops, it's quite likely that would happen at the same time.
I want to make sure I'm crystal clear on this. So of the 3 options that you surveyed the community about, and that survey is what prompted ANC 3F's letter and invitation for tonight, none of those are currently on the table except for potential consolidation of bus stops.
Well, the rerouting near DuPont Circle and Constitution Avenue.
Okay, because I don't think that was among the 3 major proposals. Were, I think, one involved eliminating service, one was changing weekend service, and one was consolidating bus stops. So pretty radical changes, not rerouting changes.
Right. So there was also, I guess, maybe I'm not sure exactly how it was laid out and what you were looking at, but yeah, the radical changes were put out there to get a feel for how people feel about it, and based on that feedback, those have been scaled down quite a bit.
That's good to know.
Can you give a little more detail on the website where the plans are? I'm sorry. You said wamata.com.bus, but they're not leaping up. Can you?
I'm at wamata.com/bus. It's just wamata.com/bus.
Right, but that and then where?
On that, there should be there's a list of links of current initiatives. So the last one there, learn about the study.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Commissioner Milan.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand, we heard about this year's bit of the survey kind of late in the game. you're saying that last year, 2017, as well as this year, WMATA staff was riding around on the buses, getting people to fill out a survey in addition to whatever was online?
Yes.
And that you got half the ridership?
Well, that's the number of responses we got, since you could also take it online. So this is a combination of the in-person surveys we got, which are less, versus the online surveys, which I'm assuming gets ported to listservs and that sort of thing, casting a much larger
Okay,
audience.
I guess it surprises me that none of us ever got wind of anything like that going on.
So, Ann Chisholm from our government relations office, she told me she's sent the information to the ANCs in the area, so hopefully it made it your way.
Sure. And I guess piggybacking on Commissioner Milad's comment, I think we got about a week's notice between the survey launching online and it closing.
For this one, for this year's work, I don't remember anything about last year's.
I don't remember last year's either. I don't remember receiving it. I would like to I'm assuming you'll be soliciting more feedback after the open houses and before the next step in decisions get made, or?
Well, that'll be, I guess, the last formal meeting that we anticipate to have. But,
Okay.
any comments that you write, if you call customer service or send a note to customer service about any of these lines, it'll end up in my inbox and be considered as part of the study as well.
Okay.
So that's also an avenue in which you can write at any time about your ideas for the lines.
Okay.
And then at this point, it'll probably progress to a more formalized proposal, which would then likely go to the board in the fall.
Okay. Okay. I guess as an ANC, we would appreciate as much time to offer our comments and solicit it from the people we represent as well. So, just.
So I'll ask Ann and try to make sure that whenever this does enter the next more finalized set of recommendations, that it gets sent to you guys.
Just wanted to ask one more follow-up about the choice of removing some of the bus stops. We've just been through up and down the Connecticut Avenue in our ANC. We've just been through a lot of moving crosswalks and traffic lights and things like that to accommodate the bus stops being made in certain places. Is this now going to put all of this up in the air, and this stuff is now going to get rethought and revisited, so we have to move traffic lights again, crosswalks again?
Well, we've been coordinating with DDOT on this, and they have the pedestrian coordinators at DDOT have been involved in the study and provided their input on it as well. So that's not something that will surprise them whatsoever. So anything we do is also in agreement that they would have to agree on as well. So that coordination will certainly continue.
The questions from the audience, please.
Well, we certainly have looked at accessibility. So part of the study started off with an inventory of the accessibility up and down the corridor. So if something is, we wouldn't remove a stop without having a most accessible alternative. So that is something we have to take into account. And I will say we've received, like I said, quite a few comments on the stop consolidations. So obviously, our goal is to reach everyone. We may not reach every single person, but we have heard quite a bit. So they can still call the general customer service number and provide any comments they would like to about the proposal or about the line. And like I said, if it's about these bus lines, it'll come to my inbox, and I'm on the project team, so I can make sure everyone else is good.
Is that number easy to remember? Could you say it once?
Actually, don't
All right, no worries. Yeah, sorry. One
I
in.
don't want to get it wrong. I am not the expert on that one. If someone else
Oh,
is.
we're going to talk about that after. We have somebody from real estate. We're going to talk about that. First, we're going to go do the presentation on 4 to 50, and then we'll dig into the details so that gets it right.
Just one comment, Teresa, on that. I would encourage folks, in addition to reaching out to WMATA, reach out to us. We do expect to weigh in on this, and we really, really value hearing from the members of our community. We pay a lot of attention to every email we get. So if you have a specific concern, email your individual commissioner or any of us, and it will get to the whole commission. We'll take it into account when we weigh in, probably in the next month or so.
Yeah, and there's also there's always commissioners at anc3f.com, and that goes to everybody up here. So you can feel confident that if you want to speak to us as a whole, that's the best way to do it. Please.
I didn't know about this meeting tomorrow, and I wouldn't know if I call. So where are the announcements for this? I mean, the people that care, they don't know. I mean, they don't know that there's going to be no house tomorrow. I certainly didn't know. And I ride in Belmont. I've worked for 25 years back and forth to the National Academy of Science and Washington State Department. So I was pretty upset when I found out that I have to take 2 different train, red line, orange line, that would take a bus, or 2 buses instead of one bus. So, and there are other people like me who are like freaking out, and they don't have a clue about these meetings. I mean, when this one on the listserv, and somebody else put it up, put the message on the listserv again, we didn't have this surprise. But this particular thing that you're having tomorrow night, I didn't know about it until just now. And I mean, there's never like, oh, it's Thursday, something on this proposal, but what about reaching out and saying, hey, and now we're gonna have an announcement, we're possibly changing things. Like, I'm thrilled that you're not eliminating the costs. But, so I'm just tickled. I mean, I don't care if it's Dawson, Virginia, I just want it down there. The next, until I retire. It's so much to get down there as I'm getting older and older, you know what I mean? So I was just freaking out. So I'm really good about that, but there's no message out there that's like, we're having an open house. Where is this stuff?
I mean, I believe that they, there were a couple of different avenues, including sending alerts to people who are signed up for L1, L2, 42, 43 alerts. I know that there's some signs at the major bus stops, maybe not every single one, but some of them are out there, so.
Is there literature on the buses? No.
I haven't seen any about that.
That might be an easy way to hit the ridership most affected by it. So.
Put it on the fare box.
Mr. Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah, it does seem like this is a bit of a broader issue because, as Commissioner Molad mentioned, we didn't really hear about it last time. This time it almost snuck by us, except that one of us happened to catch an email on a neighborhood listserv, and somehow nobody on the entire commission had caught wind of these 3 proposals that might eliminate one of our bus lines. So this may just be a broader issue to consider, that there are strategies underway, but the larger message is they are just not reaching the community, including those of us who are paying a lot of attention. So just something to think about. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you very much.
Now we're going to go into 4250, and we've got a team here to discuss that. We've talked about the project a few times in the past meetings. We're moving closer and closer to actually having it in front of, was it public space? Or zoning, okay, the Office of Zoning. And so we're going to get an updated look at the plans, then we'll have a chance for some questions, and then and then we'll have Lamont up here. We can talk about the kissing ride and a few of the other details. And so if you guys wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves, giving your name to Secretary Molad.
I'm the CEO of Bernstein Management. Good to meet you.
Hi, Mr. Bernstein. Nice to meet you.
See Josh, please. So I'm just going to do a quick intro of Bernstein Management, the ownership of the property, and then I'm going to turn it over to our design team. Bernstein Management is a company that's been in Washington for 70 plus years. It was started by my father, Norman Bernstein. Robert Sandler is the president. I'm the CEO. We've been involved for about the last 28 years or 30 years. We are locally owned, privately owned company, focused solely on this market. We own and manage all our own properties, and only our own properties. Care deeply about the community that we're in. We live here, we work here. Our office is in Friendship Heights. I live in Georgetown. We have a number of our buildings are on Connecticut Avenue, Massachusetts Avenue, Wisconsin Avenue, important buildings that are part of the community, and we care deeply about all the stakeholders that we have, which are, of course, our tenants, people who live and work in the buildings, our own employees, the contractors that we work with, and the communities that we're in. And our mission statement starts with people first. We are a real estate business, but we know that being part of communities is dealing with people and serving people. And we aspire to have all of our properties be a contributing part of every neighborhood. So when we saw the opportunity to buy 4250 Connecticut, this is on top of a Red Line Metro station in a fantastic neighborhood, and to say it is underutilized, I think, is be a gross understatement. There's huge retail potential here. We think the building is, as it's currently been used, is kind of a fortress turned inward with a moat. The dead retail is like a moat keeping everybody out. There's fantastic courtyard space and open spaces on the property, and it's really kind of a hidden. They're literally blocked off from the community. So we have a great design team, as I said. We have Rod Latanya from Perkins Will and Tim Bragan from Lab. Perkins Will is the building architect. Lab is the landscape architect. Really excellent, thoughtful designers, and they're going to talk about the plans we have that really open up the building, make the public spaces way more accessible and transparent, activate both the retail and those common area spaces. And where there are lots of opportunities, this is kind of an asphalt, concrete and asphalt open areas. There are lots of opportunities to dramatically increase green space. So with that, I'll turn over.
Hi, so I'm Rob Latonia with Perkins Will Architects. I do the AV, but also the architect of that project. As Josh mentioned, it really is the opportunity here is just to turn it inward, to turn the inward building outward. And if you're walking through it now, it's a little preview here of retail's kind of dark, it's set back. There's obstructions, and there's the artwork, but there's also there's walls, there's mezzanines, there's stairs. It's not very welcoming. The entry is it's a downplayed courtyard. Again, it's not a very welcoming space. Secondary entrance back there, but there's also the bus lane in the back of the building, which they always see as a really underutilized potential asset to the community. As I've already kind of showed you, the intent is to really clean up the project, simplify it, make it more transparent, and really make it more of an outwardly focused type of space. You can see we want to spend a lot of effort and energy just really on the retail portion. We want to make this building attractive for potential retail tenants, but also for potential office tenants that will take over the top of the property, and then create a space on the ground plane on these lower two levels that's going to encourage people to leave their office and maybe actually engage and utilize these wonderful new retail tenants that are going to be taking the lower two floors. As part of the renovation, we're going to simplify the expression of and we're actually going to go into a little bit more detail into all these areas. We're going to simplify the retail. We're going to look at more transparency at the top of the building, we're going to place it in glass. Expand the retail, highlight the entry, really rework the courtyard, and then we're also going to look as part of this to bring in some rooftop courtyards for some of the upper floor tenants. So again, so the building can be more of an inside-out experience.
Yeah, I'm Tim Bragan from Landscape Architecture Bureau, as Josh mentioned, and maybe talk just briefly about a few of the important landscape improvements. I think one of our kind of major points of departure for the whole project was to recognize that this plaza space and kind of the access through this project is actually pretty important to people that are at UDC. It gets used quite frequently as a thoroughfare. It has potential to be put in a dynamic public space. So we're looking at ways we can improve that space by Rod mentioned opening up some of the access through there, reworking some of the existing walls that are obstructed, relocating the sort of delightful sphere artwork, which is great, but it's also blocking kind of access to that whole area. And then, as Rod mentioned, really kind of greening up some of the other spaces and bringing more planting into the courtyard. And we'll also talk a little bit about some improved plantings on the edges of the site that we think make a big difference. And finally, the bus shelter and Kiss and Ride. So this, again, just going back to this view, we wanted to talk a little bit about, again, this kind of important connection here and how by increasing some of the planting along the back of it, we can really make that into more of a welcoming sort of entry to the site and plaza for the whole site. Some underplanting under the existing street trees, some of which are quite large and mature, actually providing a decent amount of shade into the streetscape itself. And then additional plantings in front of the retail area.
So our tour of the property starts as you come off the metro. So the most noticeable thing is how we've taken what was this and really looking to open it up and make it much more welcoming. The idea is that this is a covered, sheltered space that can be used for a lot more than just bus parking. I think we talked about potentially using that for the Kiss and Ride as well. But it really opens up that avenue, brings the transparency, and really creates a much more welcoming gateway for the entire property. We're going to provide some more signage so as you come off the metro, you actually kind of know where you are versus just walking into a brick wall. Again, making the whole thing a lot more inviting. We're going to complement that with landscape.
Yeah, and this next slide, again, right next to the Metro Pavilion, close to on the streetscape here, looking in towards that plaza and gateway area, and really trying to use the kind of tools that we have as landscape architects. So enliven the paving there with some new kind of dynamic paving patterns. Bring in some sculptural lighting elements. You can see the kind of round metal poles with lights on them. Sculptural planting elements that can also kind of double as benches to allow people to occupy some of these spaces, and really bringing as much planting as we can into those areas by reworking kind of the existing planters in the purple corner. The next slide is kind of a little closer in, and it speaks to how that planting at the retail, really increasing the amount of planting we're putting in front of that space, and upgrading the existing planters, making them a bit lower to increase visibility. And then you can see how those planters really kind of wrap around and tie the retail to the courtyard itself.
So right now there's, as you can see, there's the existing planters. It's a wall. It's blocking out visibility of the retailers. So by doing these simple moves and just really softening what's happening at the street front, it allows us to bring the visibility and really bring the landscape and make that much more of a much welcoming, inviting environment for potential retail and for the users of the space. So then as we keep walking down the avenue, down Connecticut, we have the main entry of the building, which right now is pretty downplayed. There's a 3-story space, which has a wreath on it right now, which we want to open it up and really turn this into another alley. It's a connection through the building from Connecticut Avenue to the building. It's not as dark, but currently it's a 1-story space. We make a 2-story space at that connecting stair and really tie this as a big feature element that speaks the language of the retail, the simplification of some of the architecture on the lower 2 levels. This retail expression will actually continue. Currently, the end of the building, the property at the restaurant is some restrooms. We want to open that up, bring in more storefront, more retail, and really turn the corner towards what's the north facade of the property. In one of our previous meetings, we talked about this north facade. What we want to do is we're going to look at the building itself, the glass happening from the tenant side up, improve that transparency, bring the retail around this corner to bring some life. And I know Bernstein is looking at tenants for this space that are going to encourage some sort of sidewalk liveliness and streetscape and really contribute to the fabric of the neighborhood. We're going to look at, there's some planting areas on this side and on the back towards the entry, the bus entry. So the 2 corners of the building we're going to soften the landscape, improve the visibility. On the other end, we're going to do the same thing with the entrance to the bus lane. We had discussed it, there's some questions in our previous meeting about the garage. We do need all the garage doors. It's actually underserved based on the code requirements. And then there's the two entrances to the parking garage. And those will remain, but we're going to look to really bookend those and at the corners where people start to engage the building and come through to soften that up with plantings and with more streetscape, more life. So then our tour takes us back to the courtyard.
Yeah, this is a little further in past the plaza, what we're calling the gateway, and really the kind of interface point between, excuse me, the plaza and the streetscape, and then to the back here, the bus bay, which we're calling the promenade. We think we can make some improvements there that'll make it a lot more kind of friendly space and potentially an exciting and more usable space for the community as well as accommodating the kiss and ride. Should mention also, remind everybody, this is all on top of a garage, so it's pretty tricky. Some of the planters that we are creating here are having to accommodate. There's a ramp, for instance, underneath this area, and some circulation down to the garage that we're kind of having to thread the needle between. But the ultimate effect and intention is to kind of open this up and really turn the planting up so you can see it. Right now it's kind of hidden behind walls, and really when you go to that space, you see a lot of walls and not a lot of planting.
Yes, as Tim mentioned, it's mostly over garage. Yeah. So really, we're going to take the existing concrete pavers and provide something that's a slightly smaller scale. It's going to negotiate the transitions and some of the grade changes within the parking lot structure a bit better.
Right, and to the extent that we can, marching this planting up to the courtyard. Oh, I'm sorry. This is one more view back from the busway promenade area. And I think you can see how much more open it is, how much more of a connection there is to the streetscape and the metro. The next slides talk about the courtyard. We'll think about it start by talking about.
Yeah, so the courtyard, the biggest move again is we want to soften up the plantings, more the expression of the planters become sitting elements. You'll see here that this is actually, this area right now is currently vacant. Yeah. It's a vacant retail and some storage space, which we're looking to, yes. So this area here, we're actually looking to remove that and open up that connection, change the scale of the courtyard, provide some shaded space, overlooking the promenade and potentially really changing the feel. One of the things that the current bus bay is so isolated from the rest of the building. There's nobody there. It's got its issues. By increasing the transparency, increasing the visibility, I mean hopefully it'll encourage more desirable uses as people are meandering through the site. Some opportunities to maybe create some sort of sense of place and sense of space. Oh, and on the back of the building, with now the main Fannie Mae entrance, which is again is kind of downplayed, we're going to look to enhance that connection, really open it up, make it a much larger expression. So again, more transparency, more visibility, more lights, and more of a transparency between the inside and the outside to make the whole space feel a lot livelier and more active.
And this is another view of the courtyard. Again, you can see in the upper part of it the view through to the promenade bus area, and again how that opens up that space. We're really increasing in terms of the landscape the size of these planters quite substantially. Trying to use the sort of topography of the planters as well to add some interest, and placing the trees there with some nuance will help enliven that space as well.
Or dream person might bring the food trucks back there and really enliven and activate that space, which will also have the other functions we're going to talk about shortly. And this is a little bit of a section of how currently this is all infills. So by taking the existing planters, expanding them, adding some trees, really most of the improvements we're talking about in that back area, besides cleaning it up, happen above in the ceilings, the lighting. We want to keep the ground plane fairly. We showed some color, we add some color, some liveliness, but not really build too much down there because we really want to figure out a way that it can be maintained as uses by WMATA, uses by the community, and really let program itself. So it's too prescriptive. So it's one of those things we want to kind of figure out what makes the most sense for that area.
And then we'll speak briefly about 6th floor terraces. We are renovating 2 terraces with a program for the office tenants in those locations, and those will be a combination of new hardscape and also raised ladder beds with re-roof type planting, as well as maybe some trellis elements for shade. In this is a kind of a zoom in detail of that. So you can see there's quite a bit of what we're trying to do here. It's a tricky location because it's an existing structure. It's actually quite expensive and delicate to improve that to make it occupiable. So we're having to do some gymnastics here with the planters to allow them to be light enough that they can actually function and still not overload the site or the roof.
And as we've been looking at in terms of the priorities, on the 5th floor, we have the option if the market continues to require it, then we can actually do that again. As Tim mentioned, it's very expensive. But we're really focusing on energies on the groundscape, lower 2 levels, where the community and people will definitely, it's more of a public function. We want to bring that greenery.
And then finally, we have a few diagrams here to talk about kind of how the planting enhancements are really enriching the site. So the existing site has, as you guys probably know, a few courtyard planters, and I mentioned these are generally quite vertical. You can't really see them very well when you're planting them when you're there. These planters actually kind of obscure the retail area. There's this long planter along this edge here. There are some in the tree pits generally that are not, there's not really plants growing in them right now. We're proposing, this is the next step, which is the proposed planters. You can see how much we're increasing the scale of the planters in the courtyard and retail area, as well as this plaza area. We're also proposing to enhance the planting significantly along the edge of the bus bay. We think that's going to really help increase the value of that space and make it a much nicer place. And then also underplanting the treatment planters to the extent possible without damaging the trees. So the kind of overlay here of existing in light green and proposed in darker green, also including the roof terraces and some additional planting at the north end, as Rod mentioned. And then the darker green being, the darkest green being these areas of the roof planting. There's existing planters that are kind of underperforming. And so we ran the numbers on this. On the site, the light green is about 800 square feet. We're bumping it up to about 6,800 square feet on the building and the ground, and then proposing to improve 5,800 square feet of planting in existing planting areas adjacent to the building.
With that, that's a presentation for today.
So just to clarify, the improved is green space that already exists.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the proposed the light green or not the lights, that would be all new plantings.
Light green are places where there's existing planting, and then middle green is all proposed planting.
So we're talking about 6,000 square feet of
more or less, correct. Yeah.
Is that dark green in the back where the bus lane is?
No, that's a strip of planting that's actually on the DC property. Yeah, it's mostly, frankly, it's mostly dirt. There's a few small shrubs. There's some nice trees through there, a handful of them, but we're proposing is to really kind of beef that up with some lower kind of flowering trees and shrubs.
To be clear, that is outside of our property line.
Yes.
It's UDC's property. We've had great relationship with them and open dialogue.
So that dark green is beyond, is the UC property?
Yes, that's
beyond
our property.
It's the back part of that.
The back part.
Need their permission to plant in the mulched areas.
Good.
Do you have a question about the planting?
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the last attic. Actually, is the Starbucks, where Starbucks is now, is part of your property?
Yes.
And there's some structure right behind that. Is that all Starbucks to the left of
When I go to the plan,
It's the very last.
oh,
the slide you're on?
the very last one, deferring.
And a long-term tenant that's staying?
This one. Yeah. One of the plans. I'm sorry.
That one?
Sure.
Okay. So that building on the left side is the Starbucks, and that little triangular thing behind us is part of Starbucks.
No, that's the ground point. That's the bicycle parking.
Yeah, I think that box is nice. Correct. You can't see it, it's underneath. This is the roof. Yeah, you can see the entrance here and the other entrance there.
So I want to come back to the bus and talk a little bit more depth. I think there's 3 specific things that we can talk about it. Before we thank you for coming tonight and for the multiple community meetings and the multiple appearances at our early one. We really appreciate your presence.
I love to talk about it.
Great. So So, and it look, I'm not sure if the slide on the back side of the building facing north, that was a new one. It looked like it was an updated one. Can you talk a little bit more about that and taking kind of the feedback we gave you on the last
Yeah,
one?
I mean, there are some limitations on the ground floor, and it has to do with the function of the building. So we're really looking to improve where we can improve. I mean, so overall, the entire northern LA facade from this is the second level up. We're gonna replace the glass, bring in more transparency. It actually has the most glass in the entire building system. More transparency, clean it up. Once you get past this back here, there's the three parking garages and the entrances to the one ramp that goes to the parking, one goes to the other parking level, which we can't do anything about that. And it's I mean, we looked at what can you do. Yeah, highlight the doors, you camouflage it. Where right now they're painted to match the brick, and they kind of just go away. It's something we just can't do anything about. So as you're so along Connecticut Avenue, what we can do is taking this. I mean, this is the current approach of the building, which is, I mean, in fact, there's the bathrooms of the old Charlie Chang's, and turning that, opening that up into a view into the retail. Talking about the potential for these tenants to activate the street front.
Yeah.
Softening this edge, which is currently gravel. On the other edge, so that's we're standing right here at the entrance to the bus lane. There's more green. There's some Pepco vaults. There's gravel. We're going to soften that up. So we're going to affect what we can affect. The view into the bus lane in that area will hopefully be a lot more transparent, a lot lighter, a lot livelier. So we can address what we can address, but anything here, unfortunately, there's really not a lot we can do with it. Most of it is public space.
To be fair, I know it's a significant improvement over the view that's there right now. See that? Yeah, yes, it is.
Absolutely.
It is. But we are looking at where we can. The curb cut that goes into these 4 bays, is that you anticipate maintaining the current size of it?
Yes, we have to.
You have to. Okay.
It's loading and it's parking access.
Okay. Any questions about the schematics right now, the commission? Yeah. The third item.
Sorry, one more.
Sure.
So for help, is this a return to being dry use on the initial Lamont?
Well, so right now there is tech. I mean, it was built to have a kiss and ride as part of the PUD originally issued back in 1980, and that was using the top level of the parking garage. I believe your plan is to use that as retail.
That's correct.
Could you talk about that a little bit more? And what an alternative space for?
My short part of that question is this bus, whatever that is, bus lane, is it two direction?
That's bus lanes one directional.
And you go in from U1 and come out?
Absolutely.
So right now you can do none of these, and that's one thing we're going to discuss with Lamont in just a second. But so could you tell us what you envision for?
Yeah. So the idea is, as you mentioned, the old kiss and ride, making that retail parking. It's a great attractor for retail tenants, especially one level down. There's the stairs that go up directly onto what we're calling the gateway, the promenade, elevators, accesses. The kiss and ride we've been discussing is the idea of introducing 4 kiss and ride spots on grade back here as well. So it's, I guess we're not doing anything on the ground plane. We want to add some color. You want to eventually activate it, but I mean, there's potential. We still need to figure out the pretty reasonable development, but as of right now, it's 4 spots back here to become the service kiss and ride for the metro.
Also at the top level, the parking or down?
No, right now no, it's just on grade is where is the current road. Up 4.
But it would be envisioned process of instead of
Potentially, again, there's a lot of.
I think one of the complicating factors is this part of the building is not actually managed.
Yes, so to be clear, the building, this building, the 4250 sits on a ground lease. It's a ground lease. The owner is Lumada. We're fortunate that we now represent real estate from Lumada here, which is great. We've been in discussions with them. The ground lease does not include the kiss and ride, the bus lane in the back, and it doesn't include, it's
called the Kiss and Ride parking spaces, but they haven't been used ever as Kiss and Ride parking spaces. Fannie Mae leases that from Lamada. We had discussions, we didn't finalize those, but Nina's open to potentially letting us turn that into public parking to serve the retail, which I think alleviates some of the parking issues we raised earlier. People parking on Connecticut running in, now they can actually park underground. But there's only so much we can control.
Sure.
We'll make best faith efforts to secure 4 Kiss and Ride spots in the bus lane. In addition, we hope to activate that, and Vermont is open to allowing us to use that. They need to use that periodically for staging for buses. I think it's very infrequent. We need to speak to that. But,
if you don't, let's
Yeah, no, basically we're in conversations about this. We know from our own customers that people want easier access and more intuitive access to drop people up or pick people up. Also, just to let you know, I grew up in this neighborhood, and I personally, am sort of victim to pulling up at this thing, going around the triangle, and then heading back up to home. So I know this area very well personally. But yeah, I think that the conversation that we're having is that we don't really have a bus bay need anymore. We do want to preserve that bus access in the case that, there are times when the red line or segments of the red line get closed, or we want to accelerate bus service on occasion. So we want to be able to maintain the bus cut through there and be able to use it in case of emergency. But turn it over to Bernstein so that they would manage and operate that area in the meantime. So when we don't have an emergency, they can go ahead and use it, program it, activate it. And then, we're in discussion about Kiss and Ride. Just maybe to answer a little question, Kiss and Ride have different functions depending on where you are. Sometimes it's 1 hour parking. We've found over time that people really aren't using the Kiss and Ride for 1 hour parking, because who really just rides the metro for an hour and comes back. So people are choosing to either get dropped off at the metro if they're coming for a short period of time, or finding a more reasonable parking garage. So the Kiss and Rides are being used as pickup and drop off activity. So I think we would want to work with Bernstein on designing those quote unquote 4 spaces so that it really accommodated that pickup and drop off activity. It's a conversation. They'll be responsible for designing it. We have a lot of experience with Kiss and Rides, and we know how many feet of whatever we need clearances for bus. But again, I think that the goal would be that it could be used, that whole bus lane there could be used for other kinds of activities as well.
Do you envision any hurdles to that process, and is there anything that the agency can do to help?
No, not really. Honestly, Bernstein's been, I think that what they're thinking about doing with this building is it's going to be a great conversion and great activation. So I think it's really just a design exercise. So I think as long as the clearances can be had, and Lamada kind of gets into exactly how to design these Kiss and Ride spaces, because we also have to do ADA accommodations, a variety of things like that. But usually it is just a simple design exercise.
Okay. And do you guys have any timeline on terms of when you might have those designs?
Not yet. It's actually a pretty new development. So,
Yeah.
So I think there's conversation. We'll start the process.
Okay. Great. The sooner. And
yes, Fannie Mae occupies the building until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Our goal is to plans to be able to go soon. We actually have interested office tenants who want to keep it faster.
Are there any questions about the design aspect of this? Okay, Director, thank you so much for taking the time. We're going to move into, we have been asked, we can turn off the presentation. I do want to clarify a couple of things. Attorney, I'm sorry. Jessica, yeah, we just have a few questions we want to run through with you, and then we'll go ahead, and we have a resolution sort of letter, and I think we might have some edits from the commissioners and things like that. So let's just talk about that real quick. But could you just come up and give a couple-minute overview on what exactly the process is right now in terms of I forget, the modification of consequences, I think it's called,
Yep.
for the PUD.
No problem.
And just kind of talk about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Bloomfield from the law firm of Collins & Knight. We spoke with some of the folks in the room a couple of weeks ago. Essentially, what we've done is apply for a modification of consequence. There are 3 types of modifications to zoning regulations for a PUD. Ours is the middle one, which requires review by the Office of Planning, review by the community, and review by the Zoning Commission. It does not require a public hearing. It requires a public meeting, which is happening this coming